Yeah, good morning, and that is Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also, in addition to that as well. Hey, subscribe to this channel if you're not already. Did you know I post college football videos every single day of the year? It's true, and some of them are even watchable. I don't know about this one. You can let me know down below. 2022 college football schedule previews, and we're going team by team. Now, the teams that I'm doing, I'm getting from the Patreon page. I made a post over there. Everybody is leaving their comments on which team it is they would like me to do. This one comes from Malcolm. Malcolm, thank you for supporting the channel over on the Patreon page, sir. I can't tell you how much that means to me. I really, really appreciate it. You want Uncle Lou to talk about Florida State's schedule? Uncle Lou's going to talk about Florida State's schedule. Let's get right into it right now. Florida State, of course, has struggled, I guess is putting it lightly, over the last several years after winning a national title in 2013 and almost winning another national title in 2014. They did make the college football playoff. Hard to believe. Go around and ask everybody to tell you all the teams that have ever made the college football playoff. You'd be surprised how many people leave Florida State off. But that's right, Florida State played in the first ever college football playoff game, I believe, a loss to Oregon back in 2014. Jimbo Fisher, of course, moved on to Texas A&M. And really, the wheels have come off at Florida State since then. Mike Norvell's been there for several years now, trying to get things turned around. At times last year, looked like maybe they were getting it together after really another horrendous start to the season with just some unexplainable losses. They did, the second half of their season did go better than their first half. So if you're looking for maybe some kind of positive momentum from Florida State to swing forward into this coming season, maybe you can find some, but Florida State's got some issues at several key positions. Recruiting, their recruiting class this year was pretty good. It feels like a letdown and a disappointment because they had Travis Hunter, the #1 player according to everybody in all of America coming out of high school last year. They had him committed to Florida State for what seemed like forever, and then of course on signing day he flipped to Jackson State. Deion Sanders making the flip there. Caught a lot of people off guard and a lot of people by surprise, but Florida State still had a decent recruiting class. They need several decent recruiting classes in a row if they're going to get anywhere close to where they were back at the height of Jimbo Fisher's tenure down in Tallahassee, where they were winning and competing for ACC titles and national titles. But let's take a look at their schedule. Of course, this isn't a prediction video. I'll do a prediction video on all these teams a little bit later in the offseason. I think it's around June. I usually start doing those sometime in June. So what we're doing here, and I've done several of these already, there's a playlist you can click on that'll take you to the list of schedules that I've done so far. We'll add this one to the list. But what we're doing really is just taking a look here at the schedule. You know, does it look easier or more difficult than last year? You know, what are the non-con games? What does the conference schedule look like? Where are the road games? Where are the away games? What about the bye weeks, rivalry games, any potential trap games, things like that? That's what we're taking a look at here. Now, the first thing you notice when you take a look at Florida State's schedule is that they have 2 bye weeks. Very unusual in college football to have 2 bye weeks. That's because Florida State is playing this year in the quote-unquote week 0. You have week 1 where everyone officially kicks off the season, right? This year, that date is, Saturday, September 3rd, I believe, is the first full Saturday of college football, what people will call week 1. A week prior to that, over the last few years, the NCAA has given us a couple of games in the quote-unquote week 0. This year, the week 0 Saturday games are on August 27th. Florida State's playing in one of those week 0 games, so because of that, they get an extra bye week. Now, the way this sort of works itself out, because people would say, well, that's not fair. Florida State gets 2 bye weeks. You know, most other teams only get 1. That's true. Florida State also gets 1 less week of practice heading into the season because they play in week 0, whereas most of the other teams don't start until week 1. So there's a give and a take there in agreeing to play in one of these week 0 games. This is nothing against Florida State, what I'm about to say here. This is pathetic. No one needs to see this game ever. Never mind on week 0. I think it was the first year they ever did week 0. We had Florida versus Miami. A great game. Everyone was excited for that one. Now we get Florida State versus Dukehesny. I'm not knocking Florida State for scheduling Dukehesny. Almost every team schedules a couple or 1 or 2 at least kind of lower tier programs on their schedule every single year. So I'm not necessarily, it doesn't have anything to do with Florida State. I'm not interested in, as a college football fan, in waiting all summer to see Florida State versus Dukehesny in our first game of the year in week 0. I don't think anyone is. This is a drop of the ball by somebody. I don't know who to blame for this. I don't know who picks the week 0 games. I don't know if it's a volunteer thing. I've got no idea. If the NCAA is going to give us a week 0, they need to give us a game worth watching. You know, you got a bunch of great non-con games the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. Take one of those games, put it on week 0. No one wants to wait 8 months of an offseason to watch Florida State versus Dukehesny. With that being said, Florida State should be a huge favorite in that one. Now you fast forward to the next week, which is everyone else's week 1. It'll be Florida State's second game. They're playing LSU in a neutral site game, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I think this game's on Sunday, too. Yeah, it is on Sunday. So you have a lot of teams play on Saturday. And then, of course, that first weekend of the season is always Labor Day weekend, right? They give us a game or 2 on Sunday, and then they give us a game Monday night. Florida State gets the Sunday game against LSU. Great matchup here. I mean, I can't wait to watch this one, right? Brian Kelly, brand new, there at LSU, our first chance to get a look at what they're going to look like with him as the head coach. Florida State, I think, has a little bit of an advantage in this game in that they will already have played a game, right? They will sort of know, you know, what's right and what's wrong coming out of that game with Dukehesny. Now, I get it, it's Dukehesny, and how much can you really tell from that game? Well, the coaches can watch that game and watch the tape after, and I think they'll be able to use some things in that Dukehesny game the following week in practice to sort of coach up the players or whatever. I just think it's a benefit. Look, there's a reason NFL coaches want preseason games, right? Look at this same way here. Florida State gets kind of a preseason game against Dukehesny before a big game in a neutral site in Atlanta against LSU. That's one of the games I'm really looking forward to. When you start looking forward to some of these big non-con games that are coming up to start the season in 2022, this one's, you know, on the top of that list or near the top of that list. You got some great non-con games coming up to kick things off. Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Florida, Utah, Auburn and Penn State play again. I think that's in week 2 or 3, though. But anyway, so great game there. And then they get their first of 2 bye weeks on Saturday, September 10th. Come out of the bye week, got to go on the road, kick off your ACC schedule against Louisville. Louisville, another team that has struggled over the last couple of years. They've been kind of an up-and-down team. You watch Louisville play sometimes, and they look really good offensively. You watch them play the next week, and it's just, you know, you're wondering where the team was you saw the week before. We'll see what they look like this year. Florida State plays at Louisville on a Friday, September 16th. Friday games are, I hate Friday games. Well, I don't hate Friday games. You know, the more days they can give me college football, the better. I don't want my team playing a Friday night game. Go back and look at some of these Friday night games. You see a lot of road teams lose Friday night games. There's something about a short week and then having to travel and playing on an odd or an irregular day. I remember Oregon, when they had a chance to make the playoff a few years ago, going down and losing on a Friday night to a terrible Arizona State team. I've seen great Clemson teams lose on the road to inferior teams on a Friday night. Not a good spot for the road team here. Florida State's probably a better team than Louisville. This is a dangerous game, though. This definitely, if this game was just somewhere in the middle of the schedule on a Saturday, I think you'd feel more comfortable if you're a Florida State fan than saying, you know what, probably win that game. But because this one's on a Friday, I think Florida State should be a little bit worried. Then you get your ACC home, first ACC home game the following week against Boston College. Boston College, up and down. Mostly down, weren't very good last year. I don't expect them to be very good this year either. That seems like a winnable game for Florida State. And then Wake Forest at home, and this is going to be a big game. A lot of people are high on Wake Forest heading into this coming season. I get it that they won 10 or 11 games last year, played for an ACC title, had an amazing offense. And maybe it's just me, but you know, this is Wake Forest we're talking about here. I'm just not sure Wake Forest is good enough to be that good 2 years in a row. Record-wise, we'll find out. Now, they get some pieces back from that offense, and I expect their offense to be great again next year, but their defense is one of the worst in the Power 5, and I can't really think of anything they've done to solve that problem. But this will be a big game for Florida State. You know, these are the types of games that you used to just assume automatically Florida State was winning these types of games. Your Wake Forest, your Dukes, your North Carolinas, your Syracuses, teams like that. Hasn't been the case the last few years. And before Florida State can get back to competing for ACC titles or making the playoffs or national titles or anything like that, they have to start beating these middle-of-the-road ACC teams. And it's not intended to be disrespectful towards Wake Forest. That was a great season they had last year, especially for them. But Florida State these teams really don't have any business competing with Florida State in any given year, never mind consistently over the last 4 or 5 years. Florida State's got to get back to a place where they're consistently beating the Wake Forests of the ACC. We'll see if they can get it done at home on October 1st, this coming up season. Another tough game after that on the road at NC State. A lot of people have NC State as the highest-ranked team in the ACC entering the 2022 season, depending on what they think of Clemson. You got some people that are leaning towards picking NC State to make the ACC title game or to possibly even win the ACC. I agree. I think NC State will be a pretty good team as well. Not sure if they can be consistently good enough to win the ACC, but we'll find out. This is a tough game here. In fact, this is really a tough three stretch of games if you're talking about Wake Forest at home, on the road at NC State, and then home against Clemson. And, you know, as much fun as we kind of had poking on Clemson fans, the Taters, last year about how horrible their offense was and the ukulele and everything like that, they are still one of the probably 5 most talented teams in all of college football. Their defense is going to be probably better than it was last year. They'll have the best front seven in football. Well, they'll definitely have the best defensive line in all of college football. If they can get more productive play out of the quarterback position than what they had last year, Clemson's going to look a lot more like what we're used to seeing them look like as opposed to what they looked like last year. I think this is tough for Florida State. The third game of a pretty tough third game stretch. Wake Forest at NC State, home against Clemson. Look, if Florida State could somehow go 2-1 in those 3 games, that would be that would be remarkable. Then you get your second bye week, and I think that comes at a pretty good time. Again, coming off that tough 3 stretch of games there, Florida State's going to need a break. Really, you get 2 bye weeks in a row here because you come out of that bye week and you host Georgia Tech, one of the worst teams not only in the ACC, not only in the Power 5, but in all of college football. They're absolutely horrendous. This will be Jeff Collins' last year in Atlanta. It's just not working there with him. He's just falling on his face repeatedly, keeps stepping on the same rake over and over again, slapping himself right upside the head. Again, this used to be the games you automatically assumed Florida State could win, and they need to get back to that, and I do think Florida State will win this game. Then on the road at Miami. And it doesn't matter every single year, you know, how good or bad either one of these teams is. This is a great game. You talk to anybody about the greatest rivalries in college football, this game's always going to come up. It seemed like a 15 or 20-year period in the 90s and in 2000s, I guess, where basically this was a play-in game for the national championship. I mean, just think about some of the great matchups these two teams have had. Another good one coming up this year on the road at Miami. Florida State needs a win in this series. And then you play at Syracuse. Again, a game Florida State should win. Yeah, it's on the road. So you say, well, maybe be a little tricky. Florida State's got to get past the point where they even have to consider whether they might lose to teams like Syracuse. Another non-con game against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Been pretty good the last couple of years, but of course now they've lost their coach. So we'll see what effect that has on them this year. So I wouldn't call that a cupcake game, but definitely a game Florida State should win. And then another rivalry game to finish up the season, Florida. And you get them at home. So you do have to play at Miami, your rival there in the ACC. But you get your non-con rival, Florida, at home to finish off the season. And Florida's going to be down this year. Now, they were down last year, and it didn't matter. They mollywopped you. Florida State's got to start winning some of these big games. Can they get it done against the Gators in 2022? Hard to say right now. A lot of question marks for both teams. You don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for Florida right now. Maybe we'll know more after spring ball, but you got Anthony Richardson and a transfer from Ohio State there, Jack Miller, kind of battling it out for the QB spot. We'll see which way new head coach Billy Napier chooses to go. Kind of weird there. You play Louisiana, which is where Billy Napier had been the head coach, and then the following week you play Florida, where he is currently the head coach. So I kind of don't know if that's a glitch in the matrix or what. But anyway, there you have it. The Florida State 2022 college football schedule. Feel free to let me know in the comments what type of record you think Florida State might have. What's the, give me a ceiling and a floor. Is it possible they could win 9 games? Maybe ceiling 9-3. If it goes really wrong, 4-8, I don't know. You let me know in the comments down below. I appreciate you watching, and have a good morning.